Trump administration has begun. We got rid of a lot of old munitions through the Biden administration. And so one of the things put forward from the House of Representatives was an NDAA that was proposed by the Trump administration and then the Pentagon to restock the United States military and to continue building new ships and new drones and new missiles that are faster and stronger and sleeker, ultrasonic missiles. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth made it clear in front of the Senate yesterday that the United States had abandoned hypersonic missile, again, not just strike packages, but interceptors, which he called a rather significant issue. During the Biden administration, that was abandoned. And so the Republicans put forward this NDAA. Again, the Defense Production Act has previously been put into place, so the United States can ramp up production, but there does need to be funding for certain things. And so this was put forward into the House, and a lot of people immediately got very, very angry at this. So there was this weird rumor that was put forward that this was going to link the United States and Israel's militaries together, like lock, stock, and barrel, and the Jews and Netanyahu was going to be able to order Zenfire missiles for the entire world. Oh no. Only here's the thing. That's not even like remotely true. It's not even remotely true. This would allow Israel the same level of diplomatic and military industrial access that is already enjoyed by Japan, the United Kingdom, South Korea, France, Germany, and a lot of other powers in the world. I hate to break it to you. It's just whenever someone comes out and it sounds a little too good to be true for the wackadoodles, yeah, it's because it is. Now, this really upset Thomas Massie. However, it did not upset Thomas Massie from Kentucky as much as he was upset that Congress attached to a piece of legislation that would ban insider stock trading. So as you and I know, Nancy Pelosi has a really great stock trading record. And it just so happens that one of the reasons that she's such a great stock trader is because she has inside access to information before those things are put into law. And then, hey, everything changes. And then hesto presto, all of her stock tips get amazing. There used to be a person that followed Nancy Pelosi's trades. And just by making trades right after she did, the dude made a ton of money. They publicized it, made a tracker, and that tracker had to be taken down because people started to make oodles, canoodles, and toaster strudels worth of the big bucks because of Nancy Pelosi's stock trading tips. So again, Congress put forward a law to ban insider trading, and the Republicans attached basic voter ID requirements. Not even all of the provisions of the Save America Act, by the way, just very basic voter ID requirements for federal elections. And this really, really upset Thomas Massie. Now, again, you may remember that we've already reported on this week that all of these cases of voter fraud that Republicans have been talking about, we just discovered over at least 6,600 people in the state of New Jersey that in 2023 and 2024, non-citizens, due to a software error, were registered to vote. And then over 400 of them, totally an equal mix, wink, of Democrats, Republicans, and independents, even though Democrat Governor Sherrill won't release that data. They just so happened to vote, a felony in New Jersey and a felony for the U.S. federal government. To knowingly vote in an election you're not supposed to, those are felonies, and not exactly nice ones either. So, little basic voter ID laws. Well, Thomas Massie threw a fit. He's like, this is a poison pill so that people can keep doing insider trading. Now, I don't know where Thomas Massie has been, perhaps other than his head up his own rectum. But I would like to remind everyone out there that the top priority for the presidential administration and the most popular piece of legislation that we have seen for a very long time is basic voter ID. It polls wildly well with Americans on the left, right, and center. It does, just by the data. And the president's office has made it very clear that the Save America Act is a priority for this entire country, and told the House, staple it to everything. You staple voter ID to every single bill, whether it's about the budget, whether it's about Bahrain, you slap it on chicken as it's going out of the meat processing plant. You put voter ID everywhere. I want people to check into hotels and you open the drawer and it says this Bible was placed by the Gideons and voter ID placed by Donald Trump. That's what he wants. And so the House Republicans, I know this is going to shock you, did exactly that. I know. I too am baffled. How could they do this? So Thomas Massie says, quote, Congress is not serious. We're voting on a stock trading ban for members of Congress, but Republicans added voter ID in the legislation. Not to get Democrats to vote for voter ID, but to get them to vote against the stock trading ban so they can use it in the November election. That's some Charles Barkley election analysis right there. No kidding. You mean Republicans knew that Democrats would hate voter ID so much that they would vote against very basic stock insider trading protect? No way. Really? You mean that when Donald Trump stood up in front of the country and said, if I say it, the Democrats will be against it, and he was right? This is still the thing? Wow, I'm starting to figure out why Massie lost that election. Wow, I too am shocked. Now, House Republicans aren't, again, there's a lot of infighting in the House as well. It's not all hunky-dory. 4 House Republicans did block an amendment to the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, that would have codified Donald Trump's executive order preventing transgender individuals, so those who are suffering from mental illness, who believe they're a different gender, from serving in the U.S. military. The 4 who blocked this are Representative Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania, Representative Kimberlyn King-Hines from the Northern Mariana Islands, Representative Mike Lawler from New York, because, again, Mike Lawler thinks that because he's in New York that he has to vote like a Democrat to continue being elected as a Republican. I've seen this a lot, and it's really dumb. But anywho, last but not least, Representative James Moylan from Guam. I'm sorry, putting our troops at risk and serving next to mentally ill individuals is not the own that you think it is. Now, the argument from these 4 Republicans, by the way, has been, hey, well, the midterms are coming up. The midterms. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Yes, in fact, independents, some of them like some more moderate stuff going on when it approaches the midterms. I would also love to remind you, though, that a lot of Republicans put Republicans into office to accomplish what Republicans campaigned on. So if you get into office and then you don't actually do any of the things that you said you were going to do, again, this is a common thing among politicians, then I don't really see why in the next primary cycle, I need to support you when you're going up against Ken Paxton. When John Cornyn runs that he's going to be a stalwart ally and then does a whole lot of nothing, I don't really feel bad watching Bill Cassidy of Louisiana lose his primary or John Cornyn lose his primary. I don't feel very bad for them, and a lot of Americans don't as well. Now, the House also passed another short-term bill to keep the government funded past midterm elections. The short-term spending bill would ensure that the federal government remains open through December 4th, well past the September 30th funding deadline and the November 3rd midterm elections. Now, this will probably pass the Senate, but there is a very, 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 very good chance that that little tiny stopgap measure does not pass. And what we're going to be looking at through, like, from September through November is basically like a compilation album of the most annoying crap that you've dealt with in the beginning of the first Trump term, of the first year and a half of the second Trump term. So remember all the government shutdown nonsense? It's going to come back. And by the way, this is why making a deal with Iran is dumb, ridiculously dumb, because if you don't think that they were going to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, no matter what was on paper right before the election, I would love to hear how many bridges you've attempted to purchase in New York. So you'd get a repeat of that. There'd be more ICE stuff right before it's going to be a who's who of all of the stuff that Democrats think pulls really, really well against Republicans right before elections. So you haven't heard the last of this. Now, this may not sound particularly thrilling. This may not sound like exuberant, excellent fun, but rest assured, boys and girls, somehow the Democrats are not letting Republicans shoot themselves in the feet in this midterm. I've never seen anything like it in my entire life. And I thought this during the Kamala Harris-Trump race in 2024, that Donald Trump would say something, and maybe it wasn't the world's best. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't like amazing, right? It wasn't like, we chose to go to the moon in this decade, or, Trump in the first debate against Hillary Clinton. Of course I use tax breaks. I use all of the ones that Hillary's donors use. There weren't a lot of those kind of zinger moments. But as soon as Trump would say something that someone might go, Kamala Harris would get up in front of the country and go, I'm talking about my period on a podcast this week. And everyone would die a little on the inside. That's the kind of stuff that's going on right now.